Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Adobe Live from the sofa here in the UK every midday till 1 p.m. every weekday. We've got some excellent guests lined up for you, and today I'm really excited to welcome Emily Theodore. Hey, welcome, Emily.
Hey, Maddy. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you. We've got a lot of people that are already joining us today, and so let's see who we've got here in the chat. And if you'd all like to join in the chat today, we are live on behance.net/Adobe Live. This is where all of the conversation happens. So hi to Kirsty, Himani. I can see lots of people here. Steve, Gareth, welcome back. Robert, I'm seeing familiar faces now, as this is my fourth Adobe Live on the sofa. See Keith there as well, Alan as well. So welcome back, everybody. Emily, how is it going in London?
It's good. It doesn't feel like summer, I'll be honest. I was really disappointed with the weather today. So it's July and it's raining on and off. But apart from that, you know, it's a good week.
Oh, good. It's definitely a good week. And, you know, this is the second installment that we have had with a collaboration between FemType. And I was actually on the chat last week with Raisa, who showed us some really great typography for the festivals. And I know there's a lot of people that are dying to see what you have been creating as well today. So really looking forward to seeing your work.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And just thank you again to Adobe and to FemType for bringing me, and also just in general, all the work they do to showcase female creatives and female type designers. And yeah, just it's a good platform.
Cool. So Emily, we have a lot of people in the chat today talking about summer. There's a lot of chat at the moment about rain. I think that you're not alone in London in the fact that you've had bad weather and that summer's not here. But take us to a nice sunny place where we'd all be in a festival right now if the sun was shining, if we weren't in lockdown. Which festival did you decide to go for in your design?
Yeah, so I went for Lovebox Festival, and they do it's based near London. They do a lot of just a mix of popular and different types of commercial popular music, but the branding I love especially. That's why I picked it. So they've always got really colorful graphics, and that's what made me probably notice them at first. So I'll show you like an example when we speak about it and we speak about the poster. But now that all the festivals are gone, I think it's like more of a reason for us to be making artwork that's inspired by summer and fun colors and everything that makes us feel happy. So we do that all year round anyways, but now when the weather is like what it is today in London, we got to do that.
I know. Sure. No, definitely. And you know, there's a lot of information on Instagram on FemType that you can follow. Actually, we should put it in the chat over there for you, but you can see lots of different work and lots of amazing posters and type. So definitely get into Instagram as well while you have a go. So Emily, yes, please share with us some of the things that you've been working on. And
So I guess just to introduce myself first. So I'm a graphic designer. That's how I call myself. But I work a lot with type. So I specialize in branding, and I just love lettering and creating artwork that plays with letters. So I've just put together some. Oh, let me click on this. Some work. So in terms of my main client work, again, as I said, it's usually with branding. I do lots of work with restaurants and cool small businesses. So on the left, there's some examples of some packaging and artwork I've done for restaurants. So I just love mixing type with illustration and then creating cool styles for brands to use. And then on the right, just some logos that are all custom done. So I think typography is really important for branding and for creating a unique look for a logo. So that's been my focus. So I've been freelancing for 3 years, and this is mostly the type of client work I do. And I'm working on others as well that I can't wait that are released and I can share them. But yeah, now it's a big focus on type. Yeah, and this is more of my personal work. So with, like, in my free time, if it's not stuff to do with branding and graphic design for brands, then a lot of my work is more just hand lettering. And it's all just inspired by what I call lipstick colors and retro styles and keeping things crazy. And I get, inspired by music. So that's why the festival brief is kind of cool, because it's kind of giving me a music brief in a way. So you can always do fun, colorful stuff with that. So yeah, gives you an idea. So should we jump into the brief, or were there other?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I love the colors and things that you've got here. It's so summery. It's just so nice to see so many colors, and it's so good. Let's definitely jump into your festival brief and how you've incorporated Lovebox.
Awesome.
Into your poster.
So from this style, so just to explain the brief quickly, in case just for everyone. So the brief was to create a poster in response to a UK music festival that's been cancelled, and the idea is to pick like a quote or some kind of language that just makes us feel positive. And yeah, I'm gonna show you my quote. So here's my quote. The beat goes on. And I love this quote because for me, it means more than one thing. So I think on one level, yes, it relates to music. It's kind of obvious there. But then on another level, from the past few months, the whole world has been in some kind of limbo, and everyone's been making such an effort to keep things moving and to keep each other feeling in good spirit and to feel positive. So I think it also embodies our culture today, how we're just all, looking ahead and trying to stay happy. And I wanted to capture that kind of feel. So something that it's about looking forward. Yeah, if that makes sense. Cool. And I'll show you guys in terms of the style that Lovebox does. They've got crazy cool branding every year. Always running into like just using fun colors like bright pastels, outlining their type, bringing in iconography. So there's a very graphic look. So I'm going to bring some of that into my poster design today. And on the left, I've got a really basic concept sketch. So before I jump into Illustrator and start actually creating this, I wanted to say that before I do start a piece digitally, I always do a sketch. Even if it's really basic like this one, at least it gives me a sense of what I want to feature, where I want to put things, what kind of hierarchy I want to create between words. So I'll explain it more when we're in Illustrator, but that for me was important to sit next to the visual style of Lovebox to give a direction to where this poster is going.
And you're really good at that kind of hand-drawn lettering. You've got a few compliments already in the chat from Gareth. And he actually asks you, says, Emily, hand draws lettering. Do you do places like delis and pubs for hand-drawn work? Is that something that you do?
No, but I'd love to. I guess you mean like maybe chalkboards and signage and stuff. Mm-hmm. I've dabbled with it. I've done some chalkboards. I've got a few on my Instagram. But it's definitely something I'd love to do more of. Because that's where it all starts. Like I started it by hand with pens, and then when I became more interested in type, then that transferred more digitally. But I think it's always good to keep doing things traditionally as well, because it keeps your I think balance with how letters are supposed to look as well. So I'd love to do a pub, and I'll keep you posted if I do.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So should we do this?
Yes, come on. I can't wait to see.
Okay, let's try making something. So I'm going to leave this PDF. I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to open Illustrator. So that's my home screen, and we're going to create a new document. Okay, so because it's a poster, and I'm working in Illustrator, so I'm creating vector art, and it can be technically any size because then I can make it as big or as small as I need to, but let's go with A3, nice standard poster size. And I'm also going to make sure that my color mode is set to RGB, and that means I can use brighter versions of all the colors I want to use. And that's pretty much it. We don't need anything else. Ta-da! Okay, that's our blank canvas. So I'm going to bring in the sketch that I mentioned earlier. So let me just find it in my desktop. I cleaned my desktop for you guys. You're welcome. Did not look like this last night. Okay, so I've got my really basic sketch there. And again, just to mention that when I am doing something that's more focused on the type design, and I've designed more intricate work, then I will spend a lot more time on a sketch to get it as final as possible, so that when I go over it in Illustrator, it matches that more closely. But in this case, it's an exercise, and we're not going to get too bogged down with details. It's more like about the concept for me here. So that's why I kept the sketch really basic, and I'm not going to trace over it. I'm going to kind of recreate it in Illustrator with the sketch next to the artboard. So yes, so far so good. So to explain this idea, so for me, the word beat stands out the most. It's the most interesting word, and I decided I want it to be the focus of the poster. I'm going to spend time to create a custom beat, and then I'm going to use an existing font for the other 3 words. So that way, I think from this kind of layout, it gives me space as well, like maybe in the top right space, bottom left space, I can add some, not maybe like an illustration or something like a very basic graphic just to fill out the rest of the piece. So let's just start. And ask me if you have any questions. So this is going to be, yes, this is the first, so I'm mumbling now. Okay, so we're starting with the pen tool. And I just to mention, if you don't use Bezier curves with type, or you've never tried it, definitely practice and learn to love it, because this is the easiest way, I think, to create type in Illustrator and to edit type in Illustrator as well. So yes, let's start with the B. Good letter to start with. So I'm going to create a stem for the B. I'm going to do it at a slant like I have in my sketch. I'm also going to make sure that in my swatch palette I haven't filled out anything. So I'm going to make sure that it's not filled in with the white, and all I'll see is the black stroke. So hit 2 points there. And now I'm going to create the rest of the B. So I'm not going to curve them yet. I'm clicking on points to get the shape of the B overall. I'm just keeping it really rough right now. So this is one method you can use to create something, which I prefer sometimes. So instead of, just to quickly show you, instead of creating this kind of curve with dragging out your handles as you create a shape, you can also create all the points, that you want to make. And then when you click on it, and this is one of my favorite things to do in Illustrator, this tool. If you Shift C, then you can create anchor points from that. So then I can drag out that into a curve, and I can do the same with the top bowl of the B. And for me, that gives me a lot more control than that other way I showed you. So I'm just gonna tweak it a little bit. All of this I can edit. I'm not going to get too bogged down on, again, how perfect it needs to be, because I have an idea and I want to have time to finish the rest of the word. So let's leave it like this for now. Then to create the E, I want it again at the same slant as the stem. So you can even just duplicate that, and I'm just gonna delete these points, or I could have retraced this line. So that's my stem for the E, and I'm going to complete it at the top there and join it at the bottom. Make this a little bit smaller. And actually for now, I'm going to keep these on the same baseline just so I can compare them. Yeah, that's fine. And for the A, again, just doing it visually by eye. And the stem for the T, bring that. And I'm going to join that. And I've done a really basic word already, just from anchor points. So I'm gonna just smooth that out a bit. Yes, awesome. So yeah, now if I go back to my sketch, I can feel when I was sketching that I wanted it to look a little bit more spontaneous. So I might bring the E up a little bit, and I might bring the A down a little bit. I think the T I'm kind of happy with. I might just extend the bar. And then in terms of spacing, again, just visual, because it's not a font, so we're not kerning in that same way. But just gonna see how I feel about that. I think it's, for now, that's kind of what I want it to look like. So the next part of this weird style thing I've got trying out, I want the crossbar of the E and the A to kind of swoop and connect. So I'm going to do this as well with the pen tool. So I'm going to start from outside of the E and maybe just extend that way. I just actually bring this back. Bring this up a little bit. So I want them to kind of loosely connect and not feel totally separate. So, okay, I think that's pretty much matching my sketch so far. It doesn't usually happen. Okay. So now I want to start finishing the rest of the type in the poster. So I'm going to use an existing typeface for that. And it's not exactly love box style, but I feel like for a poster, this could work really well with a very tall headline kind of typeface. So I've got one in mind, but first I'm going to write in my text. So I've got the, oh no, just deleted that. Got the. So to show you, I have picked one that was designed by a woman, Caroline Hadelaxono, if I said that right. It's a very bold typeface. And I think from how the beat is going to look at the end, it's going to match. So let me just move these where I want them to, and then I'm going to focus on the beat. So I have the beat goes on. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for now. I'll come back to my cool feature word. So I'm gonna highlight these. So another point to add, when I'm designing type, usually I will design around the stroke of each letter. So in this case, because I know that I want my style to be bubbly and monoline, I have just created one line for each letter. I'm not creating the actual width of each because I'm not playing too much with it. So I'll show you what I mean. So now that I've created the skeleton of my word, I can go up here to the stroke and I can change it. So for this, I want to have a more bubbly, rounded kind of feel. So I'm going to go with the round stroke. So already you can see how that's fleshing out a little bit. And I'm going to take the thickness up a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to start moving things around just to see if they can look better.
And Emily, we've had a question in the chat for you. And I've just, here we go, I've just clicked it. It just went away for a second. It was from Jackie that asked if you, do you only choose to use typefaces designed by women now? Or is that really just based on this project with FemType, or is that?
Yeah, so I wanted, it was just kind of a cute thing that because we were working with FemType and collaborating, I thought it was a nice thing to add. Raisa last week as well, consider that as well. By all means, I would pick a typeface that works with your brief. Of course, there's many women who design amazing typefaces, but there's also many great ones by others as well. So yeah. But I will add, it's nice to know where your typefaces come from and how that ties in with your project. So maybe why they were designed. Some of them are designed in response to a cause, or there's a lot of cool stories behind some typefaces that are designed for specific reasons. So it's a good question. So with this beat, let's finish this off. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker, and all the while just checking in to make sure that all the spacing is, I'm happy with that. So this curve, which is just trying to, okay, let's leave that for now. So what I want to do next, just check that this is actually joined. That's joined. That's cool. So what I want to do next is turn this into an actual object. So now this whole thing is a stroke, which means if I was to shrink down this whole shape, then it would retain that thickness, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to be an object so that in future, if I was to resize it, then I know that the proportions wouldn't change on that. If that makes sense. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to go to Object, Path, and Outline Stroke. So at this point, I want to say you need to be happy with how it looks before you do that, or to make another version. But as you can see, once I click on this, it's going to add the anchor points now outside of the stroke, and this whole thing becomes an object instead of a line. So now I can play with this a little bit more. So I'm going to highlight this. And another thing I want to do is join this again as an object. So in your Pathfinder window, you can click on Unite, and that's going to make it one shape. So now if I click on it, it's like, woo. So it's there together. So that's what I have now for beats. So let's start to do the same with the other words. So to edit these more as well, I'm also going to turn these into objects. So if you click on your text box and then right click, you can create outlines. And that's going to then turn into an object that I can edit the same way as this. And I can start to move things around a bit more. So I'm going to bring the word on a little bit more closely, and I'm just going to group these. And I'm just going to start to see how that looks in comparison to my sketch. So kind of happy with that spacing. And I'm going to start thinking now about the rest of the poster. So I know that I want to create some kind of line work or an extension of this in the top right and in the bottom left corners. So I'll go back to my pen tool, and I'm going to actually move this word a little bit up. And I'm gonna see how this works with around the word beat. So I'm gonna curve this line there. Let me just get rid of that fill. And originally, I thought with this poster, it could feel like a little bit urban, just because a lot of the festivals have that kind of vibe. And we're all stuck indoors, or a lot more than usual. So I thought it would be cool to mirror that landscape a little bit, or to consider it. So I'm just keeping that there. And maybe in the bottom, I will do something similar. So I'm not going to think too much about this. Just so maybe, yeah, I'll come here, just like finish there. And maybe with these as well, I will also round the stroke, because I think that's going to match the style of the type a little bit. I'll take the thickness down and maybe move that a little bit in.
We've got a funny comment from Alan in the chat who says, all skylines need a King Kong.
Yeah, we should put a King Kong in. Well, for next time, Alan.
Yeah.
That would have made my lockdown a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
So now that I've got a bit more things happening in my poster, I'm going to start thinking about, am I happy with where things are lined up? So if you Apple R in your window, you'll get your rulers, which are handy. So maybe I will bring, I kind of like where the V is now. So maybe I'll bring this building a little bit down. Maybe this one doesn't need to be so high. And I'll check as well that, a little slow, matching. It's okay. I think roughly I'm happy to start playing with stylizing this a bit more. So this for me is the skeleton, and before I start putting in color, I always like to feel like I'm happy with this just in black and white, so that graphically I can feel, does the type work, does the layout work? And sometimes I'll rethink a decision a little bit too late after I've applied color, but that's okay, because we can always go back and change it. So that's the good thing with digital work. So the first thing I want to mention with Lovebox, like the style that I want to kind of bring into this version, is they like to outline a lot of the type and the icons. So I do want the same thing here. So let's pick a color for this word. I'm going to go to my color swatch, and I really like pink. So I'm just gonna, nothing wrong with pink. Pick this pink. Oh no, okay, I just hid you.
And Lovebox is always so colorful. Everything's like a rainbow.
Yeah. So one thing as well that it might be a personal thing, and I know it depends on the brief, but I usually feel like when you're, like sometimes when you're working with type, things can look a little bit stronger in 2 to 3 colors. But again, like you can get away with way more. So Lovebox does a great job of it. So I'm gonna maybe pick up to 3 colors here, and maybe we'll add a few more, we'll see. But I love color, don't be afraid of color. So I've picked this cool pink for the beat. And one thing I also like to do, which I find makes changing colors easier, is I'm gonna add it as a swatch. Because then that means if, let's say, I've settled on this pink, but I've made other elements in my design the same pink, and I want to change the pink, then I just find it easier to click on my swatch, and then I can make sure preview is selected, and I can then change it more easily. So sometimes when I've got really complicated artwork, it's easier for me to color manage if I've got these brand colors or key colors saved as swatches. So.
And Emily, you've got a question from Gareth actually. He says, does Emily use Adobe Color Themes window menu for help with colors?
I don't actually, but I have to say Adobe have really great resources. Is that, you mean for choosing colors or organizing them?
Let's see if Gareth has popped anything else in there. And Kirsty also asks, actually, do you use Adobe Fresco?
I have played with Adobe Fresco, but I have to say that my hand lettering digitally, it's not done on an Adobe app. I've been using Procreate because I have an iPad, and that was how I started it. But I have tried Adobe Fresco, and it's amazing. So it's something I do want to practice more with. So yes.
Cool. I'm just checking if there's anything else in there. In the chat, here we go. It's here we are. Look at the demo video. They're talking about paint. There's a bit of chat about paint at the moment. And Gareth says window menu or color themes. I think that was in response to his comment. Here we go about the paint there. No worries. Carry on, Emily. You're doing great. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my favorite part. Besides the type, it's the color, because that takes sometimes a long time for me. But yeah, let's say this is color number 1, and I want to add 2 more colors. So I'm going to pick a different color now for the other bits of text. And I think I want this to be a darker color. So maybe I'll try like a more purpley blue, see how that looks. Quite like how bright that looks. Okay, so far I'll go with that. With Lovebox, there's a lot of outlining going on, if you remember from that reference image. So I want to try that on this as well. So I'm going to add a stroke. Oh wait, before I do that. So I want to also add this second color to my swatches, so that I just have it available. So now that means I'm gonna click on beat, and I want to add a stroke around it so I can use the same color. And I'm gonna up the stroke, see how this starts to look. So I'm getting something kind of bubbly and funky. And I think I'm also going to add color to this random city that we've got in the background. Okay. So one thing I also like to do to help sometimes type stand out in a poster is to add a drop shadow or just a bit more backing behind it. So I'm going to try that with this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just making a copy of the beat, and I'm going to bring it behind, and I'm going to fill it with the second color. So maybe I'll make that a bit more to the center. And yeah, I guess from that style, it's, ooh, that's not good. It's fine. I'm gonna also do the same thing here. So maybe I will just bring that to the side, bring it behind, and you'll see it now. So I think maybe it's a bit too much of a drop shadow. So I'm going to bring it closer to the type.
We have Kirsty in the chat who says drop shadows are amazing. Completely agree with you.
I love them. They just, I mean, I probably had too much of them. I like them. I think they're fun for a poster. If you can't use it on a poster, then where can you use it? So I'm kind of seeing now, am I happy with this? I'm feeling like there could be some spaces in this that I could fill out a bit. So I'm gonna see if this works. I might bring out some circles here. And what I can do is I can eyedrop the type, and then it'll pick up the same fill color and swatch color and swatch thickness, stroke thickness. And I might just add a little bit of that around. Oh.
Sandrine has shared it's quite an 80s vibe here in your poster.
Yeah, I think maybe that's from the color as well. But I can work with 80s.
It was acceptable in the 80s. Love that song.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see how this might pan out. And I think I'm at a point where I'd like to add a third background color. So I'm going to get my rectangle tool. I don't want to stroke, so I'm going to take that out. And let me try filling that up, putting that behind. I think I want a lighter color for this. Maybe like a warmish color.
Angus has shared he's feeling this is more of a Miami neon vibe.
It kind of is getting there. I mean, that's fine because Lovebox is canceled this year, so. I'm actually going to make the pink a little bit lighter so that all of it pops out a bit more. And I think as well, I'm going to, that's not good. That's not what you, that's fine. It's a concept. Okay, so one thing I also want to try adding is maybe a little bit of a 3D look to this. We can always try it and see how this looks. So I'm going to add some strokes on top of the type, and I'll keep them maybe in white, and that way it's going to add kind of a shine effect, but in a graphic way. So I'm going to keep that as a round stroke as well. So this is a really easy way to add an effect without using an actual effect.
Nice.
Just like really low key. So I might just, and you can edit this as well. So you can make them short. So yeah, I think I'll leave that now, see how I feel about that. And maybe to add a little bit on the buildings as well. So again, like this wasn't in my sketch, but now that I'm thinking while I'm doing it, could be cool to work in it. I'm gonna keep them in white, and I think that might be a nice, like they'll pop out, but they won't be too strong. So bring that here.
And do you use a tablet for your drawings, or do you do it on your Mac or PC?
So this is now just straight on my Mac. or I'll use a mouse, but yeah, same idea. So for my hand lettering, which is what I was, I showed a few examples of, I usually do that on an iPad. So I'll just draw it directly on the screen. So yeah, I find that, like how I did the sketch. So I find that's a lot easier to intuitively create letters and type. So that's usually how it starts. So this style feels a bit different for me because I haven't drawn out the whole look as much, and this feels more of a vector style. But as I'm showing, I think that's okay because with color and then details, it can still look a bit more personal. It doesn't have to look like too what's the word? Too digital, I guess. It can look fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so just gonna we're lagging a bit. Okay, that down a bit. Okay. So
We've Rachel in the chat that says she loves this, Emily. Absolutely loves it.
Oh, amazing. I'm so glad. I think it, like, if anything, it gives you just an idea that you can first of all combine something custom with other fonts. It doesn't have to be all custom and it doesn't have to be all one style. So for me, they're really different styles of the word beat and this like very poster block style for the other three words. But that's okay. And I think it's, in the end, it's the color that brings it all together. So yeah, I think, sorry, I've got the spinning wheel of death right now on my...
Oh no! Well, we have a request here. Lee says, loving Emily's work and this stream. When will she be on again?
Oh, thank you.
And Marie also says that looks amazing. So you've got a lot of appreciation coming through in the chat today.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, this is a different kind of style for me a little bit. But as I said, I think it's a good thing to explore how your style can work when you're between hand lettering and then something like Illustrator, which it can butcher it. But as I said, it doesn't have to. You just need to play with it and see how it works for you. So, oops, okay. So yeah, I think what I might do is just lighten the orange a little bit. See, you look a little bit more pinky.
We have a question from Dar in the chat, Emily, which says, if the design is for printing press, why use RGB mood color?
So if it is for printing, then you should not use RGB. You should be using the CMYK. But because, oh, yes, I should save this. Wait, I don't want to quit. 1 sec. So yes, you should save it as CMYK because then your colors are not going to print accurately. Yeah, while that's, oh, I don't know what's happening. Sorry, guys.
No, don't worry. This happens from time to time. I think we've all seen this.
Yes.
Of death.
What's going on? Yeah, so CMYK definitely, because that way you'll get more accurate printing for your colors. The reason why I chose to do it in RGB was because I will not be printing it. And if I know that it's just going to be for digital, it'll just be shared on Instagram, then I'm okay using RGB, because that way I can use brighter colors. But if for any reason you create something in RGB and then you decide later you want to print it, then rather than printing it from RGB, I would recommend fixing the colors as a CMYK document. And that way you know that it'll print more accurately, because sometimes we'll get really like dull versions of colors.
Yeah. And Emily, a question for you while we wait for that to to fix itself, hopefully. How do you find time, or how do you make time to focus on personal creative projects as well as the normal busyness of the work that's coming into you? Do you put aside time to focus on personal projects, or is it something you don't have time for?
Yeah, I definitely, I think if you don't make the time for that, then it can be very difficult to, sorry, I just don't know what's going. Yeah, you have to make the time for it. So I'm freelance, and I freelance full time, and sometimes I have contract work or part-time work, and it can get really stressful to juggle everything. So to know that you've got, you're booked for, these days, but then you've got to catch up on private client work in the rest of your time. And I believe so much in personal work, because I think that's what helps you explore what you're interested in and helps you get better at what you like. So if you don't make time for that, then I feel like you'll just get stuck in a, creative hole. And if that means you need to take a day off, which I've done sometimes, and just made sure that's completely for my own work, or even just a few hours in the week, then just whatever you have to do. But it's really important, whatever your career stage is in now. I think I need to sign in again, so I'm just going to do that. Sorry, guys, this has never happened, and now I'm live, and it's happened. So
don't worry, it's not the first time, and it will definitely not be the last. This is definitely, as I say, not the first. But you're right, it's so important to keep creating and to keep doing things. And there's so much happening. I mean, I've got 2 little girls, and so we are creating all the time. They're hooked on Fresco currently, which is probably why my internet is lagging a little bit over here, because they're uploading pictures and things like that too. And yet, Stuart, good advice there. Never stream with kids and technology, That is so true. But yeah, you're always creating, always.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. I can see the screen again.
Finally.
Kirsty says you're not alone, Emily.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry. And you've got lots of support in the chat. Everyone's saying, I've had this week. Don't worry. I've had a few crashes, says Daniel. Kirsty says you're not alone.
Thank you, guys.
You're all good. You're good company.
Yeah, I think I feel happy with this style, but I also want to say maybe there's a few things that I would have spent more time on, or things like I'd be interested to keep trying with. So I think like one thing that I noticed, there were some imperfections in the letters that I created with the beats. So I would have just made sure that before I converted all the paths into objects, just to make sure like I'm happy where everything is aligned, that I've got strokes that are joining, just to make sure the spacing maybe feels a bit more comfortable. So I can get really fixated on that stuff. But now I'm just trying to show a concept and put something together more quickly for this. So it's okay, I think, for this, just to show how you can work quickly to get an idea there. So at least then you can see what you would do differently. And maybe would have been adding a bit more detail to this building idea. But I'm not going to focus too much on that. And I think now I might even make that a little bit lighter again. But I think also this kind of layout works for, let's say you're resizing for Instagram and you need a square. So what I'll probably do for the square version, which I'll post later, I might just bring the buildings in a little bit and all the type closer together. So I'll just condense it vertically, and I think that'll fill out a square quite nicely. But yeah, I think it's kind of the weird vibe here. So,
and you have a question here, actually, Emily, from Stuart, which is a good question. If you were to design a poster for a client, how many variations would you create and timescales?
Ooh, that's a big question. So with all artwork, I think, and this probably comes from my experience with branding, but you definitely need to start with a very good conversation about what the client wants and expects. And I think from there, it's a lot easier for you to create versions that will make more sense for the brief. So I don't believe in showing 50 ideas to a client. I think that would make their job to choose it very difficult. And it would also mean that you haven't really listened to what they're looking for. I'd probably show up to a few, and that just depends on the brief. And if there's a few, if maybe let's say you have 2 ideas, but you want to show 2 variations on one, that could work. But as long as it's a few and there's more than one, so the client has some choice, but there's few of them, not too many, so that you can explain each one and the differences between them. And timescales, let's be honest, that's never really up to us. But I guess it depends really on what you're working on. But there's always a time scale that they have in mind. So as long as there's enough time for you to feel like you've given it enough work, then somewhere between what you want and what they're hoping for. Hope that helped.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, what's your favorite thing to work on? Because you showed earlier on in your work that you do some amazing hand-drawn typography. So do you prefer that to this, or what would be your ideal project?
I think I definitely love working with type, and I love branding as well, because branding for me combines a lot of things that I enjoy in graphic design. There's a commercial drive, so I know it's got a brief and I'm not designing something that doesn't mean anything to anyone necessarily. I've got a target audience in mind. So I like having that, like having a brief to artwork that I'm creating. And branding also combines typography, sometimes illustration, colors, and presentation. I think lots of things. So I do enjoy branding, and I enjoy kind of designing things that fit into that. So type, maybe illustration. I love hand lettering for myself, and sometimes I get to work with clients who want that style, but if it doesn't fit in with what they need, then I'm not going to impose that. So it really depends on what the project is about.
Yeah,
so.
And you do have a question from Gareth, who says, has Emily done any animation or motion to your work?
Ooh, so that's definitely something I want to do a lot more of this year. I don't know why I didn't do this in lockdown, but I have learned some After Effects. So it's something I wanted to apply to sometimes type work, but maybe even logo animations, just trying to see how I can take existing work and give it new life, because I think animating it just puts it on a whole new level. So it's something I've explored, but I definitely want to create that personal time to explore it more. So
yeah, it's hard to find the time, as you were saying earlier, but it's so essential, right? It's so good to us to learn something new. Daniel says that he loves your figure drawings, and there's a lot of appreciation to your figure drawings on here.
What, like people?
Well, it's here we go. On the chat, if I just scroll up, there's a lot of chat coming in at the moment. Here we go. Emily's figure illustration is great too, from Angus.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I guess that's that's where everything started for me. All of design and everything I do, it all came from just loving to draw. And I think, you know, the first thing I drew were people, and Disney was my biggest inspiration. And I think I know that not everyone enjoys sketching, but I think feeling comfortable to sketch, that's what's helped me so much, especially with typography. So feeling okay to try out different types of letters just by hand, it's made me a lot more comfortable with experimenting. So I recommend, just if you're afraid of sketching, just don't be. And it's all about creating and having fun and you know, embracing the process. So
totally. Do you know, I found the easiest way to get into drawing is to trace over a photo or something underneath, just to get the elements right, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So it's a bit of a cheat, but it's a good way to get started in drawing. Any tips you'd share with anybody?
That's a big. I think the biggest, you know, whatever stage you're at, always enjoy what you do. I mean, the creative industry is huge. There's so many things you can try. If you're not loving one style or one process or one software, there's so many other ways that you can create. So if you enjoy creating, just don't let any of those issues stop you. Definitely there's so much support for everyone. We're so lucky to have, you know, the Adobe community and the online community, and even where you are locally, wherever, you know, like design hookups and exhibitions, like there's so many resources, and just use all of that. And for me, like the biggest thing is always make things for yourself. So it's great to have clients. I feel so lucky that I can support myself as a freelancer. But you should always have things you're working on the side that excite you. And I've always found that the things that clients will ask me for that they prefer, they always refer to things I've done in my free time. And they can probably see that there's been that energy spent on that project because it came from me for me. So always keep that as important as your client work, I think, because that's you, like fully you.
That's so true. And what's next, Emily? Like, is there anything exciting that you can share that in the pipeline, stuff that you're working towards?
I am busy now, so that's good. I'm working on a few things that I'm really excited to wrap up and share with everyone. So it's a mix of branding, but also some more lettering projects. And as we were saying, like things that started off with hand sketches, but then bringing that into Illustrator and then making vector versions of that can be used commercially. So there's a few projects that relate to that. So I'm excited to keep working on those and sharing. And I'm always trying to do personal work when I can, when I'm not as busy. So if you want to stay in touch, like on Instagram, just to see, like, as I keep, I don't know, playing with Illustrator, but you know, when I try animation, it'll be on there too. So
yeah,
posted. That's my main channel, Instagram. So
cool. I think Tim shared that in the chat. And I think we've got one last question from Angus. It is, do you ever mix figurative work with lettering?
Oh, yes. I do have some stuff on my feed. I love that look, actually, but I don't feel like I've made it work with a vector style of lettering. So usually when it'll be when I'm drawing. So that way my drawing style, when I draw people, usually matches more intuitively my hand lettering. And I think they work together, but I haven't been really as interested in combining type design necessarily with drawings of people. I feel like they're used for different things, but yeah. You can add lettering to everything. It's that's why it's so good. It can be good on its own. It can look good with illustration. Yeah, and there's a lot to look at online and to learn from other letterers and type designers. So yeah.
Angus says that makes sense. Thank you. Michael says we'll be waiting in regards to your animation.
Oh no, don't pressure me.
I love it. And Richard also says that he really enjoyed the whole process and he loves your unflappable calmness, which is really lovely. Is the red ring or the circle of death is something I think we've all experienced. Steve says this is fantastic. Thanks, Emily. A lot of people have really enjoyed what they've seen today, and the chat will continue on Discord if you want to continue the chat, everybody, but that is all we've got time for today. We're back tomorrow with Joe Alam, so we've got another Adobe Live on the sofa. I'll be back here tomorrow, so please come back again. Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Honestly,
thank you so much, Maddy. It was really fun just to meet you and do this with you, and I hope everyone enjoyed. And thanks again to Adobe, to FemType. And I can't wait to see all the other programs. So, from next week, and we've got more type with
We do indeed. Well, please come back. Definitely. Thank you. And we'll see you all again tomorrow. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.